Hey, everybody. I wanted to take a few minutes to connect with our autistic community and offer a little bit of hope in the midst of all of the autism news you may have been hearing about, especially as it pertains to RFK Jr. and what he's announced in terms of his autism study with the NIH and the HHS. There's a lot going on, and I've heard from so many of us, myself included, that we're just feeling overwhelmed, angry, anxious, bulldozed, silenced. There's so many concerns within the community that are valid right now. It's important to remind yourself you're not overreacting, you're not broken, you're just paying attention. And there are some big conversations happening right now without a lot of concrete information, which makes it feel a lot more disorienting. It's hard to know what to hold on to, what to trust. So this video is about talking about why this kind of news is particularly hard for neurodivergent people, especially autistic people, and then also talking about small movements that have made a big difference throughout the course of history and practical things that we can do to stay hopeful and not drown during this time. So first of all, just thank you for showing up, because I know it's very tempting to just crawl into a hole and not pay attention to anything and feel like everything is hopeless. I know that I'm laughing because there's a lot of emotion behind that I can't put into words. So thank you for being here and for reconnecting to the community, because the community is where so much of our strength lies right now. So why does this type of news hit so hard for the neurodivergent community? Well, first of all, so many of us have had issues with authority figures. They've been untrustworthy or manipulative, gaslighting. There's so many of us who, throughout our experience, whether it's been in education or familial relationships or partnerships, our voices just have been silenced in many ways. And so when we see something on this large of a scale nationally, where so many decisions are being made in what feels like a way that is not representative of our collective voice and our choice and our needs, it can feel very, very defeating. It can also be very reminiscent for us of different relationships and experiences that we've had in the past where we didn't have a voice and we were bulldozed or gaslit, or our needs were not taken into account. There are plenty of statistics that show how much more bullying neurodivergent people have dealt with, how much more abuse. The numbers are really awful. And so it's not a stretch to think that these types of decisions being made without us are having a very big effect on our well-being. It also feels very traumatic to have decisions being made about you without you. It's like, hi, hello. It makes you feel invisible, or it's made me feel invisible, like jumping up and down and waving and nobody's looking at you or hearing you or seeing you. And it's an awful feeling. As a parent, it's an awful feeling because my kids are autistic and I don't want them to have to worry about a future where they're looked down on as, a second-rate citizen. And it's scary to think about how that conversation is taking place on a national stage right now. One thing that I've always believed is that what you focus on, you create more of. So yeah, we can focus on the chaos, the confusion, the fear. We're just going to feel more that way. But there are plenty of instances in history where collective action has made a difference and real changes have been made based on people's resistance in creative and brave ways. So I wanted to share some of those today. One of them is the disability rights movement in the US in 1977. There was a group of disabled activists that occupied a federal building in San Francisco for 26 days. This was the 504 sit-in. And they were demanding enforcement of Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. And the result of that was the first civil rights law protecting disabled people in the US was implemented. There was also the Greensboro Four. This was in the civil rights movement in 1960. There were 4 Black college students who sat at a whites-only lunch counter in North Carolina, and this sparked a wave of sit-ins across the country, which ultimately helped contribute to desegregation of public spaces across the South. And then also the neurodiversity movement that we're currently a part of, which started around 1990s when autistic activists like Judy Singer and Jim Sinclair began writing, organizing, and reframing autism as a difference, not a disease. Those efforts have gone very far. I'm here creating this autism channel because what they started teaching on and speaking out about has now made its way to me as a late diagnosed autistic person who is now able to speak out about my experiences and also talk about how it is a difference and not a disease. So we're definitely not alone in these struggles. We're not powerless. Our voices do matter. And if you've been keeping up to date with some of the things I've been sharing on through the channel and on my website, I highly recommend that you follow the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. They're doing a really great job of following all of the updates here. And based on public outcry, the NIH has said, okay, we're not creating an autism database, an autism registry, which there's a lot to unpack there. Okay. There's still a lot of questionable things happening that we don't have concrete answers for. But because of the public outcry, they have heard that there's anger and dissension and outrage. It's being noted. Okay. That's not nothing. Our resistance here is in part just surviving, not only surviving, but when we thrive, despite all of the things being thrown in our face, that is resistance. When we create a legacy that we're proud of and we do it with kindness and respect and empathy and compassion for humans, that is resistance. We don't have to stoop to the level of the people touting these falsities and misconceptions about our community. We don't have to stoop to their level. We can bring them up to ours. I don't know if that's possible, but we can stay at our level and we can encourage other people to act differently. And modeling something takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of strength. And it's absolutely a way that we can show resistance and show our power. So what can we do to thrive right now? What can we do to create a legacy that we're proud of? One thing that we can do is to stay informed without drowning. So I know many of us can't even do the news. I totally hear you. I would still recommend maybe, do whatever feels best to you, but following maybe one source, like I mentioned, the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, they send out manageable updates. It's not like blasting your inbox, but manageable updates through the lens of the autistic community, letting you know what's going on and what's happening. Find small ways to stay informed so that you can be aware of what's going on, because there are important conversations happening right now. And I don't think the answer is to put our head in the sand and forget that they're happening, but we do have to manage how often we can bring our head up and actually take in what's going on. So trust your intuition there and know you've got to do what works best for you. So if your news intake looks a lot less than another person's, that's okay. You're not being ignorant. You have to protect your nervous system, which is on my list here for us to do as well. Care for your nervous system. So make sure that you're resting. Resting intentionally is a form of resistance. It really is. Because when we rest, we become stronger. We become more capable. It's like a reset. We have more energy, more power, more strength. Resting is so important. Taking care of yourself, loving yourself. Like if these politicians at the top, if they had this is my, personal opinions here. Like if they had more self-love and self-compassion, I think that a lot of these issues would go away. If you are comfortable and happy with who you are as a person, you're much less likely to lash out at other people. So taking care of yourself, resting, staying hydrated. I know eating is hard sometimes, especially when we're feeling down, but stay hydrated. Make sure that you're drinking enough water. Keep a water bottle with you all the time. This is my water bottle. Y'all have probably seen it in so many videos. I always have it in front of me. It also helps some people to have a water bottle with a straw. So it's one less step. You can just stay hydrated without having to unscrew anything or open a cap. Create music. Go out in nature. Create art. Rituals, anything that helps you connect back to yourself, that can help regulate your nervous system. And that's not a selfish thing to do. Somebody had posted in my online community a couple days ago, like, when is it okay to take a day off work? Like, how do I justify it? I'm like, I don't think you need to justify it to anybody. If you need to take a day off of work, take a day off of work. That's an act of resistance too, in its own way. Let's see. So we talked about staying informed without drowning, connecting with aligned people. So for example, the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network that I mentioned, but also in the comments here, connecting with other people who are feeling these things and actually allowing yourself to lean into those feelings a little bit with other people, that can be healing as well, even if the feelings are uncomfortable. I also have an online community that I run outside of the YouTube platform. It's on a platform called Circle, and there are hundreds of us on that platform now. This is a great place to share ideas, ask questions. It's also a politic-free zone. So if you're looking for a place to just not be around any of it, this would be for you. I'll put a link in the description for that 7-day free trial if you want to check it out. Also, one thing we can do now is speak up in ways that feel safe. That can look like anything. It doesn't have to be making a YouTube video like me. That's not everybody needs to do that. But writing a poem, even if you don't share it with anybody, creating art, submitting it for something at your local library, all of these small things have ripple effects that go outward and keep going and going and going. So think about if each one of us in the community, which this is a huge community, if each one of us in the community did one small thing to express ourselves, to use our voice in a way that we get some of what's inside out, all of those things having ripple effects, it makes a big difference. And then the last thing here on my list is to keep building your world. What are you working on right now? What projects excite you? What skill building do you want to invest in? Is there a class at a local community college that you can take that would just kind of ignite your fire again? Anything you can do to keep feeling progress in your own life outside of what's happening in the world. These are things that can help give us autonomy. And that sense of autonomy is so, so important, especially for autistic people. Also, parenting, focus on your parenting and being there with your children, being present, doing things that matter to them, game nights, whatever it might be, reinvesting your time in your family and your loved ones. And a reminder that you choosing to take the next step, to keep going, to thrive, to create a legacy that you're proud of, these are acts of resistance, and they're very powerful acts of resistance. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You don't have to be doing everything. You just have to keep going, just one step at a time, one breath at a time. Let it be messy. Let it be imperfect. That means you're human. And I wanted to share a quote from one of my favorite role models, especially from when I was younger, Mr. Fred Rogers. Mr. Rogers, such an incredible activist and just compassionate person all around. And he said, "When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, 'Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping.'" And I think there's so many helpers here within this community. I would love it in the comments if you would share some ways, some things that you're doing to stay hopeful, to stay creative, to stay attuned to who you are as a person without spiraling in the context of all that's going on in the world. I also have free resources available on my website, particularly the Big Autistic Resource Guide, the BARG. This is recently updated. This is a free resource guide that includes hundreds of neurodivergent businesses, products, artists, authors, also informed medical providers who can help with autism evaluations, therapy, occupational therapy, life coaching, financial coaching. Check it out. I'll put a link to that in the description. And I've also got on-demand classes that teach about autism from an actually autistic person, which I feel like the world needs so much more of. Autism education by autistic people. So I'll put a link to that in the description as well. Remember that you're not alone. We're in this together, one breath at a time, one step at a time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.